Great. Am I okay, Adrian, to start? Oh, no, it's okay.
Gretchen gets to lead the meeting today. Exciting. You look thrilled.
Yeah,
You're ready to go.
Do it.
we'll be done in 15 minutes.
Crack that whip.
Move, 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 crack it.
You're good to go. Thank you.
Sure. I have never run the meeting before, but we are going to call to order the monthly meeting of the Meridian Arts Commission, Thursday, September 12th at 3:35 p.m. Do you call roll?
I do.
I will let you do that.
Thank
We
you.
oh wait, we have to amend the agenda first.
Let's call roll first.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Smith? Oh, is not here. My apologies. Commissioner Peters?
Present.
Commissioner Hale?
Present.
Commissioner Zampa?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Commissioner Casserati?
Present.
Mrs., I'm sorry. Do I call your name as ex officio?
Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Mylum?
Here.
Thank you. Absent are Randy Funk, Leslie Malden, and Bonnie Zahn Griffith. And
Who's
Liz
by
Smith.
phone. And Bonnie's on the phone.
Oh, sorry, Bonnie, you're on the phone. Bonnie, are you present? Thank you.
I am present and accounted for.
I apologize. Thank you.
So thank you all for your patience. We have our chair and vice chair out of the building today, so I am running the meeting. And the first order of business is actually proposing an amendment to the agenda. I would like to, do I have to make a motion? Yes. I would like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to include a section for announcements, which would become number 2.
You can call it 3A.
3A. I will call it 3A. How about that? Are there any other requests for amending the agenda? Hopefully not, because we can't add new things. Okay. There is a motion on the floor. Would anyone like to second?
I second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. So, that takes care of item number 2. The approval of the minutes is next on the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Questions, comments, clarifications? If not, we would entertain a motion.
I move that we
Do
approve.
we accept those as read?
What was that, Bonnie? Can you repeat it?
No, I just said I move that we accept the minutes as read.
Thank you.
Second?
Jessica seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Motion carries. 3A is the new section for announcements. We have some recent developments around the Mayor's Award for the Arts. And with the concerts on Broadway on September 21st, the question before us, is it a question? It's an announcement. I'm working my way through this. Adrian?
Madam Chair, Hillary left a note that the mayor's awards in the arts need to be presented to the winners, and the winners also need to be notified. Hillary suggested the best time for that to happen would be a presentation at Concerts on Broadway on September 21st. And she suggested that as many commissioners that could be present for that event would be desired or encouraged.
Excellent. So it's not necessarily a decision that needs to be made if that's the right place to do it. It's a question of whether or not we can show up to be there and support that so that staff can initiate the notifications. Is that correct?
As far as I understand, I also believe that there would be room for discussion about if there's a more appropriate time to present those awards.
I have a conflict on that day, unfortunately. And I know I can't be there during that time.
We have a number of commissioners
I will-
absent today, too. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Yeah, I will not be in town. I will not be in town that day.
I'll be there, and I think that that's a great opportunity, assuming that the award winners can attend. I think that's a great place and time to do it.
Yep. It looks like I can do that as well. We know Leslie will be there, so we'll have at least a few. But I don't want to hold up the process
No,
either.
no.
If we need to get the notifications out, so.
Yeah.
Can we just send that over email then and just try to
Absolutely.
commit a couple of us that can show up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as long as we have confirmation on that that's a good day that you all agree that that's a good day to present those awards, then we will go ahead with proceeding and sending out the emails to the winners so that we make sure that they're present too.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Also under announcements is we have a new commissioner. Yay, welcome. Welcome, Jenny. Yeah, so there's a little button, and we do ask that you use the mic because the meetings are recorded under open meeting law.
Yes.
Just so everything gets in there. And I don't really know yet what kind of orientation you've had, but obviously we're in a little bit of a transition. So all of us are available to chat with you a little bit about our experiences and
I would like that.
current projects and all of that.
I would like
Would you mind telling us just a little bit about yourself and why you volunteered to be on the commission?
Push a button here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, I think it's off now. Yeah, there you go.
okay.
then you'll see it here on the screen.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'm a native Meridian person. I grew up here, went to school here, have a long family ties here. I am interested in serving my city because I lived outside of the city for about 26 years. I lived in unincorporated Ada County, and now I've moved into the city, so I'm excited now. I'm back home. I'm an artist, and I like all the arts. I like music, I like theater, I like it all. So I'm excited to be here. I'm a little over my head right now, but I appreciate any help you guys can give me. So anyway, I'm retired. I have lots of time, and I will not be able to be there on the 21st. I'm going to be out of town. So
You'll find that there's a lot of things, we all can't do everything. And so what's nice about having a full commission is that somebody is often able to participate. And so just jump in where you can and where the schedule aligns and
well, I'm excited.
lots of opportunities.
I'm excited.
Ginny actually stepped up during Meridian Art Week. She helped facilitate the artist resources and grants panel.
Nice.
So I know, she just jumped in there, so.
Yeah, excellent.
I thought I might as well get my feet wet.
And if you would please keep track of your hours of volunteering, we report those every month to the staff, and then those get folded into the city's volunteer hours as
okay,
well. So just
great.
kind of keep like a little mental log, once a month email.
I might have to write it down, but yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Jenny, what type of artist are you?
Right now, I'm watercolor and pen and ink. I've done pottery. When I was a kid, I carried a sketchbook around all the time, and so yeah. So I was in. I think I mentioned to Maria. I was in National Thespian Society in Meridian High School as well. So anyway, I've always had been really open to the arts. I've always been really interested. So.
well, keep your September clear for 2020 because our Art Week is a big week. And
It is.
we need all the commissioners to pull in for that. And kudos and congratulations to everyone who participated in this last week under announcements, including getting to see our very own Maria perform with the dance troupe, which was awesome. You did a great job.
Thanks,
Shouldn't be
Gretchen.
surprised. Speaking of theatrics.
Theatrics.
Okay, was that it, Adrienne, for announcements? I think it was. Great. Moving along, new business. David is coming to visit us, but not here yet. So let's just move over that until he gets here. Or should we start the discussion without him? Great.
My recommendation would be to wait.
Okay. There is information, hopefully you had a chance to review it, but we'll still wait for him to come. So the next item of business is Cherry and Main Traffic Box, number 4B. In your packets, we had the notes about Ian Lawson. Does somebody else want to take this? I'm just going to read the notes from the packet.
I didn't get those.
I saw it on
Under Nova. So Ian Lawson would like to sponsor the large box
Okay.
at Cherry and Main Street, which is currently wrapped with the hot air balloon piece. The Public Art Committee discussed and decided to recommend that Hillary get a quote on the cost of the additional labor to remove the existing wrap and prep the box to see what the cost would be. If it's low enough, MAC could decide to replace the existing box with the sponsored artwork choice, Anita Lawson's Bird of a Feather. If MAC does not want to pursue this, we need to refund the sponsor.
I don't remember if we discussed in our public art committee meeting, we didn't really talk about this.
Not that
We know how long the current piece has been up there? Like, is it about due for replacement?
I'm sure we could find out,
Okay,
but I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure it would be on the database.
We had a schedule, I believe. I think it was like a big Excel spreadsheet of when things were
we do,
set to get
yeah. I know
replaced,
that
right?
Hillary's used to show it to us once in a while.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, I'm just curious about how long it's been up there.
So it's the request of the business owner to change it, as I understood it, right?
Somebody would like to sponsor that box, and they've chosen the Anita Lawson piece, so they would like to replace it. They would like to put that piece at that intersection, and there's already something there, is how I am understanding this.
Yeah.
That's what
Madam
yeah.
Chair,
Yeah.
it's my question, sorry I've been absent, so maybe this was discussed in a prior meeting, but what is this, how much is the sponsorship?
Madam Chair, do you want me to address that?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I'm trying to find the spreadsheet.
The sponsorship is $524. We've received $824 for that sponsorship. I talked to Karen in finance to find out what that extra $300 is for, and she was going to advise. But the cost of wrapping a box is $500. And then the unwrap is $65 to change the wrap.
So, Madam Chair, I guess for clarification purposes, I saw the bill, I read all of the information about it, and the question is, I guess, are we just allowing people to just pay just the price to swap out art anytime they want? Or is this, I thought the sponsorship was supposed to be a fundraiser for MAC to some extent, to then allow you to do more wraps at a higher rate. Otherwise, at some point, is this setting a precedence that every time somebody wants their own artwork, they could just buy out somebody else and you know, I'm gonna take this person out and I'm gonna put my art on, and I don't know, it seems like there should be some guidelines, and maybe there are, but if it's not specifically going to have any benefit.
We came up against this recently with a business also up by Sawtooth Middle School? Heritage. Anyway, McMillan and Meridian Road, I believe. And we had kind of discussed, we did not want to set that precedent, that we would just take it down if somebody asked, but rather that they're there for the lifespan of it. And that they can replace it when it becomes due, but we didn't have any policy or anything
Right.
written around that practice.
Yeah, my understanding about how we've handled sponsorships up to this point, and I could be wrong about this, but my understanding was that someone could sponsor a box if it didn't already have art on it. And the life of their sponsorship would last as long as the wrap was still, the regular life of the, however long those wraps last. And then when it came due, then we would wrap a new piece. And offer a new sponsorship at that point, perhaps, but I agree that's kind of a dangerous precedent to be setting, to allow just anyone to pay to replace a wrap with something that they'd rather have instead.
And I remember that conversation, I remember having those conversations. And for some reason, I thought in a replacement aspect, it would be for additional funds, not for the cost of it. And again, I think that maybe this is an Emily question, but it seems like you guys are maybe getting to the point where you need a policy on that. On replay, I mean, sponsoring a non-wrap box is not a non-issue. It's the sponsoring of the boxes that already have some artwork on
Right.
it that aren't ready or have not exceeded or
Their life.
got to their lifespan.
Right.
And I did find it was 2016 that the hot air balloon wrap was completed. And that's one of our youth art pieces.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So the sponsorship is $950, and that includes the cost of the wrap itself and a $300 commission for the artist. So that approximates $950. So that's the amount that would be returned to the sponsor in this case. Regarding the policy, I do have a draft that I completed this summer and working a little bit with Hillary to finish that, but you haven't seen it, so I can bring that forward. I will say it doesn't really address this particular situation, so if you'd like it to, I can kind of work on that. That said, in the absence of a policy, you can do something now without setting a precedent. You can have just a one-time decision that you make as to this box. No assurance was made to the artist that it would be up for a certain amount of time, so we don't have any obligation there. And the lifespan of a traffic box, a vinyl traffic wrap, is 5 years. So it is a little ahead of schedule, but it's your discretion whether or not to do it.
Emily, is there some opportunity for us to negotiate with that decision, like in terms of the timing, right? So we're last quarter of 2019. So if we said, can they make that switch in spring of 2020, it takes one thing off our replacement list a little bit early. But it's not just doing it immediately either.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, certainly you could do that. The tracking, I think, is the challenge in that case, but it's certainly doable. I wouldn't want you to go beyond a year. We can't really obligate ourselves beyond 1 year. So it would be good to get that wrapped up within at least the calendar year.
But we could decide to accept this sponsorship, but not actually make the wrap change for 6 months.
Madam Chair, I would certainly make that clear to the sponsor and give them the option to withdraw their offer, because I think the understanding is that it's moving forward and getting done. And, honestly, it takes quite a while to sometimes, depending on their workload, to get it done anyway. So maybe get it in the hopper now and it happens on that timeline anyway.
And we would have to manage expectations with the sponsor anyway, in terms of that this is not going to be forever with the one you've chosen either.
True. Yes.
So just to repeat, just to clarify what I've heard. So Emily, you said that sponsorship is $950, but it sounds like that's not what we received. What did we actually receive?
My guess is we received $950. That's the fee for a sponsorship. Our cost might be a little different. The fee approximates our cost, but we do pay the artist $300
Right.
when we're moving forward, and then we also obviously pay for the services to do the wrap.
Right. I thought I had heard a different number that we received from the sponsor actually, or the person
Okay.
requesting a sponsorship.
So like 824 or something like that.
I think that the other
It sounded
numbers.
like it was eight something?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not, and it wasn't in the note.
No, it wasn't.
But the other numbers just discussing were whether or not it was, if we had to incur the cost to undo the wrap.
Right.
Right.
And ready the box for a new wrap, do we
Yeah.
pass that cost along on to the sponsor? And I would argue if it's not in our cycle, then yes.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we just have a straight policy of $950, and that's supposed to cover everything.
Yeah.
So,
And
Ma-
Madam Chair, Commissioner Peters, you're correct. The report says 824.
okay.
So I don't know what to make of that.
So,
Or change that. So but that's where we're at with that
So,
sponsorship.
I'm seeing the traffic box wrap in our budget here, from signs, et cetera, was $524. And if we're paying $300 to the artist, then that would be the $824. We're doing the wrap and the artist.
And to take
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Madam Chair and Commissioners, I just needed a little bit more clarification in terms of the sponsorship. So I guess I guess what we're doing right now is anybody can step in and go, here's my $900. I'd like to sponsor a traffic box, and here's the art that I'd prefer to put on that box. Because I thought we were picking the art that was going onto
Yeah.
the box. But in this case, they want a specific artwork to go on that specific art. So that, I don't know, is that, I guess I just need clarification if that's part of the sponsorship plan or the.
So I would guess, I'd have to go back and look, I would guess that the piece that they chose was something that's already in our repository, because that's what we do, we choose
Yeah.
items from our repository. So I know that, this is the first time that I've experienced this discussion about sponsorship as a commissioner. But I do know that there is a box at Locust Grove and McMillan that's sponsored. I don't know who chose the art for that, but it just has a little plaque on the bottom of the box that says sponsored by. I don't remember who it's sponsored by.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how that process has gone in the past in terms of allowing the sponsor to choose, or if we choose, and whether we approach businesses for sponsorship, or if folks can come to us. I don't know. Gretchen, you've been here the longest of any of us. Do you
2016.
remember how that's gone in the past?
My memory was that we choose for the repository, and that whoever wants to sponsor can choose whatever they want from that, and they can request something to go in a particular, we also say, here's the available boxes. And especially for downtown, where we have a list of places we want to target, they can choose from the list. Otherwise, they just say wherever.
Oh, nice.
And my memory was Hillary had kind of steered some of those in the past to say, this one's available, this would be a good fit here. So, yeah,
Good to know.
Madam Chair,
yes.
just one other thing to consider possibly is this designated as a child art box? Was it sponsored by MDC originally? And if it was, and it was designated as child art, and the new piece is not, how is that going to affect MDC, and would it be important to ask them for permission to remove that art? And so that's a whole nother step. Was that one sponsored by MDC or not? I think that.
That's kind of right on the bridge there, because it's the north end of the strip. I bet it was. But I'm sure we could find that on a spreadsheet somewhere.
If I was MDC and you were taking my art off that I paid for,
Right.
no? Is it? Okay.
Well, I think similar to what we're saying with this person who wants to sponsor something is, it's not forever, because it has a lifespan.
Sure, but MDC is taxpayer dollars, that's the difference, and I don't know.
That's the case, then yeah, I could see some conflict there with removing that.
Especially ahead of
Early.
schedule.
We're within the life of the wrap, then that would be more, I think, reasonable, but I think removing it ahead of schedule, almost 2 years, would be problematic.
Madam Chair, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just saying those are considerations to make and maybe to ask.
Yes.
The question is it sponsor in a hurry to know today? Or is there time to go before MDC, and we don't even know if they paid for it. Emily's looking it up, so.
Yeah, it's a weird number.
Hurry. I'm scared.
Then they need to refund the sponsor. Well, what I'm hearing from the group collectively in this discussion is that there are some complications that would not make this an easy decision to approve. And we would have some options, but no matter what, we kind of need to talk to this person who wants to sponsor it to get some idea of why can it go somewhere else? Because if we just said, here, we could put it here, no problem, and they'd be happy with it, then we just get a new traffic box wrap, right? So there could be a path to just moving it. And if it's important that it's that location, then we can advise that the cycle for replacement would be likely in 2 years, and that would give us time to go back to MDC to just manage expectations on any downtown boxes of youth art specifically that they sponsored. And they sunset in 26, I think, MDC? I think it's 26. So we probably only have a few years left anyway with them for funding, which as we talk about future planning, is something to keep in the back of our minds because they give us money for concerts on Broadway and
Yeah.
some other things. So what I'm hearing is nobody is jumping at the bit to make a motion, to make a decision on this. Maybe we can summarize some of the conversation and contact Mr. Lawson with some of the considerations that would determine whether or not we're going to refund his money or redirect. Can the Public Art Committee just look at the list of available boxes and maybe make a recommendation for an alternate recommendation for this piece?
Yeah,
Bird of a feather?
we've got a meeting next week. We can put this on the agenda for next week.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Can you help me remember that then, Adrian? Or Jessica, who's in charge of that committee, will take care of it? Great.
Madam Chair, just to answer one question, it's not in the urban renewal area, so this MDC is not a factor
Okay.
for this. I think it technically actually is, but it's not an MDC-sponsored box.
Great, thank you
Either one.
for finding that out. That makes it a little simpler. Okay, is that enough information for us to move on with the meeting? Seeing nodding heads?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
No action taken on 4B. 4C, via partnerships and public art plan. The council approved the budget, and it did include money for this contract for funding the public art plan. Emily is ready with this agreement, is what this says, for us to move forward. And Jessica has been the contact between MAC and VIA. Do any city staff have any comments to make on the VIA Partnerships Public Art Plan?
Madam Chair, I can get ready immediately, but I don't want you to think I have an agreement in the hopper ready to send out. So, easy enough to do a professional services agreement. And, I have an email a thread that I think, Jessica, you started or you're on. So, I think I have what I need, but it's gonna take a couple weeks to get that out the door.
Sure. And the budget was just approved, so we're not even there yet.
Time.
Jessica, can
Yeah.
you remind us then about what the proposed timeline for that was? Did we actually nail down, walking back from when we want to have it in hand to when we need to start the process?
I don't remember, let me go back and see what I wrote down. I don't remember off the top of my head what we said about a final plan ready, but I think we wanted to do a survey in the spring,
Okay.
because people will be out and about more. Let me see if I can, I know that was a couple meetings ago.
So,
Oh, I don't have notes about that.
if we had a draft agreement for next month's to approve, then the process with them could be done within probably, I don't know, 30 days or something. So we'd be done by
Right.
end of calendar year, we'd have a contract in place.
Yeah.
And the work could begin, or even January.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were gonna start discussions on, setting up a visit and talking about what we wanna have in our survey. And, I mean, we can start those discussions this fall and this winter, with the intent of getting a survey out in the spring and then, putting all that information together and hopefully having a final plan ready, maybe by the end of next calendar year.
So this is serving sort of more of an update than an action item. in that it was approved by city council. We have the funding that would start October 1, and where the path is clear for the process to move
Yeah.
forward.
So is there a deadline to use the funding? Do we have to use it in the new fiscal year and complete everything in the new fiscal year? Or if we extend into the next fiscal year, would that be okay in terms of spending the money?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Peters, it does need to be complete in FY '20, so
Okay.
between October 1 and September 30th of 2020,
2020?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. So I
I
guess,
got ahead of myself, but yep. So we do
Okay.
need to engage them and kind of get it done. If we phase it purposefully to have it go over 2 years, that's a possibility. It's certainly smoothest if we can just have a start and a finish within the fiscal year.
yeah, okay. Well, that's good to know. That gives us an idea of how to set schedule up so that we can make sure we get it done in time. So it's not such a complicated project that it couldn't be done by the end of next fiscal year, so.
Madam Chair, has the commission at some point decided to do this? Has there been, I know that in concept, but was I guess I can't remember and I could look at the minutes, but is the decision already made to move forward, assuming the funding was in place? Okay.
I
Yes.
believe so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember, and I would have to look at minutes too, I don't remember which
Okay,
meeting,
I
but
can
that
do
we
that.
discussed looking at their pricing, we looked at other options, we decided this was the best firm that we wanted to use because of the specificity of their work.
Great.
And so
Okay.
it really, the decision was made, it was more about whether or not we'd get approved for funding it.
Okay.
That's what I
Thank you.
remember.
I think I do remember a conversation this year.
Great. I'll go back. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all for your work on that. To be continued. Moving along to the strategic plan update review. Hopefully you all had a chance to review this very large document before the meeting. As we are now rounding the corner where it needs to become official. We've been talking, Ginny, we've been talking about this for a very long time, like at least a year. This update to the MAC strategic plan has been in process. So lots of hands have worked on this and eyes have looked at it. But we are at the point where we need to discuss whether or not we're ready to recommend that it be approved by the mayor and the city council. So we would present that plan, and the date included in the packet is on the 24th. And my assumption for Emily or Adrian is that we need a formal approval of this version to move that forward to the mayor and council for review. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I guess a question for Emily as well. I went through and, as I work as an editor, I went through and did just kind of a text edit. That doesn't need to be approved, right? We can go ahead and approve the content. I mean, I didn't change any content, it's just punctuation and rearranging a few words here and there, but it's not anything that changes the meaning of anything. So is that okay to hand that off and we can approve the content of the plan? Or does it have to be approved like as it is right now?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I guess I would leave that to you. I would definitely include in the motion that the final draft is subject to your revisions and that there not to be material changes, maybe, just to clarify that. But it's up to really the commission whether to proceed that way.
Okay. Sorry, I can't not.
Nope, it's okay.
Like,
No,
good.
that's-
I mean, I would, for myself, on working with you on the committees and the commission as a whole, I would completely defer to your expertise when it comes to matters of copy edit. So is there, do we still need to discuss any of the content? I think is the first question I have, because if there's no further discussion necessary on the content, then this should be a very short discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I apologize, I don't have it with me, and I didn't write down the number, but there's a section in there, and this question, there's a section in there that discusses other organizations you're gonna work with. like the Idaho Commission of the Arts and, I think it's towards the end. Meridian Arts Foundation was not part of that, and I don't know if that was intentional or oversight, or it just, yeah, it just doesn't need to be in there, but it was just something that jumped in my mind.
Yeah, Councilwoman Mylan, we mentioned a couple of different organizations here and there, MSO and ACHD and APC. Is it probably under public engagement, my guess would be? Section 4.
Yeah, I think it's, B, section 4B, action item B, or 6, we have 6, I don't know, right, Roman numerals. That's way 4, you said 4, I'm like, sure, that's 4. Yeah, 6, B. I guess it just says such as, so it just seems like seems to be one that you work with
Oh,
more than.
yeah, I think, so what we're talking about here is Section 6, supporting local artists, Objective B, Strategy 1, Action Item B, where we have some partners listed,
Yes.
and the wording such as covers
So
that.
I know they don't have to all be listed, but.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, as Mac and MAF continue to discuss how our agencies work together. Right now, it seems like they just do grants for artists. They don't really do events, other than the fundraising event. So in terms of like that section, I don't know.
Like I said, I wasn't saying that it needs to be, just wanted to bring it up for your food for thought. If it doesn't belong there, then that's fine.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think this brings up a good point more generally, that I think it's a good idea to remain more general when we're talking about working with outside people or groups, because we don't, this sort of is why, because we don't want to run the risk of excluding anybody or making it seem like we are picking favorites. And so maybe we could amend that section to read, now I just lost where it was. Partner with organizations, other organizations that support the arts, or something like that. And then that would leave it more open to us to decide who we want to work with as we go and as opportunities arise.
Agreed. And if you decide some of these people that you listed specifically aren't good to work with, not in your strategic
Right.
plan anymore.
Should we pursue that? Does that require a more comprehensive review of the entire document then? Because we name a lot of other
A lot of
groups
them.
in here.
We did, yeah.
Clear Valley Children's Theater.
I think maybe we started to discuss this when we were in our strategic plan session. But I think the sense that I get is, up to this point, we have provided sponsorships or funding to specific groups as they came up, because that's all there was, and they came to us and asked for money, and we would provide funding for them as a sponsorship, or I guess technically in exchange for advertisement of MAC, because we're not a granting agency. This was a exchange for services. But as MAC grows and as the arts community in Meridian grows, maybe we need to discuss how we approach those opportunities to provide some funding to other groups, so that we don't, so that we don't play favorites or even appear to be playing
Sure.
favorites.
Commissioner Peters, I agree. I've brought that issue up myself in the past.
Yeah.
I would say, in the interest of time and how long it's taken us to get to this point, I definitely have some reservations if this needs to go to council on the 24th about making a significant, like digging back in, because we'll always be picking it apart. And in 5 years, none of us sitting here might be here, and it might be valuable to those people in the future to know these were the ideas, the types of groups like the Small Business Associate, the Small Business Development Center. I thought it was SBA, but anyway, you know, there was a business angle to Art Week that we wanted to infuse. So, I mean, especially if it's worded intentionally to say things like such as, or in these other areas.
Yeah,
And it could also help with budget requests and things to have some specificity in a document like this, not knowing the future of a new mayor and 3 new city council seats. In terms of having something very specific that's been an approved document. For that reason alone, if there were questions about what we were spending money on, it ties to something that is an approved document, which I could see as beneficial to at least sustaining, you know, what we have today and what our plans are.
well, maybe we could say, for example, and, you know, make the wording clear that we're not specifically calling out these groups because we plan to fund them, but just making them, saying these are the types of groups that we have funded in the past and could fund again in the future, but it's not exclusive of anyone else.
We have the such, oh, sorry,
Councilwoman Mylum, and then,
the such as,
Oh, yeah.
which is good, maybe, or maybe just adding at the end, you could leave it such as, and then add, and many more,
Yeah.
or something.
Or and other,
And
or,
other,
you know,
to
or
make it more,
others, or-
more obvious that these are just examples
Right.
and not the list.
I agree. I think it'll be a less, if it's part of just a grammatical kind of looking through the lines, making sure that it's just looking out for grammatical errors, that we make sure that when we mention a name, that it is absolutely clear that it's an example of an organization rather than the organization itself that we only support. Because that'll be an easier change than going through and
Right.
and taking out all of the organizations that we've already named.
any other thoughts, questions, comments?
I guess my question would be, what kind of motion do we have to set forth? Do we have to set forth a motion to have someone take a look one more time for grammatical errors and then send it over, or?
We are going to drive the staff crazy,
We are,
this
yes.
document.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
we
that
are.
right now, because
Yeah.
it's taking
do we
us
just
a
go
really
for it?
long time to get it pushed through this far, you guys.
So I read through it and this one didn't really particularly call out that specific section because it did say such as, and I kind of took the organizations that were taken in as examples rather than just the organizations we're going to support, but I could understand how somebody can read that and could take it that way, but thoughts?
It's a risk I'm willing to take and leave it as it is and approve it with copy edits, frankly. That's where I'm at on the issue. I mean, we're an arts organization, we're an arts commission, we're going to work with arts organizations. So the names may change over time, but in terms of kind of speaking to content, I think the content is solid, and I'm personally just reluctant to mess too much with the tight timeline on getting all this stuff going, because the clock has been ticking.
I agree.
So, is anyone willing to, we are at the point, if there's really no further discussion, to make a decision to approve this with a comment to subject to copy edits with no material changes, or to inquire about the timeline for staff and what our other options would be to present to city council if you guys wanted to go back and look at content revisions at this point.
I move that we submit the strategic plan for the arts, pending any copy edits, but no formal edits to material as it stands.
Thank you, Jay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Oh, Jeannie. Ah, she raised her hand. I'm going to give it to her.
I second it.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If the final draft could reach me by Wednesday at noon, so what day is that? The
18th?
next, yes, thank you, next Wednesday, September 18th, then I can assist with getting that on the city council agenda. Are you, as the commission, going to present to city council, or is the desire that it's just a resolution?
That is in the notes that the commission would present it, and with Leslie and Bonnie. Bonnie, are you still there? Not here. I think we would have to probably figure that out over email. That's Tuesday, so that's afternoon, city council? What time is the Tuesday?
Every Tuesday, there's a work session at 4:30, and so you could, that, it would be appropriate to present at that time.
Okay.
The regular meeting is at 6 o'clock, and if that is better suited for everyone to be there, that's a possibility as well. I think the idea is that community presentations would actually be at 6 o'clock. Now I'm confused.
Sure. I think most of the non-land use stuff, we try to do at 4:30. And things that are not public hearings. So if it's a public hearing, we try to do those at 6 o'clock so that more people can attend. If it's a presentation or a policy or anything to the city, usually in commissions, generally, we do those at 4:30.
So you have your choice, really. And the point being, I need to have the final everything by Wednesday at noon so that I can put that on the agenda for the next week. And I'll put you on for a department report when you know which meeting or which segment you'd like to be at. And
So
prepare the
what I'm
resolution.
hearing with that is that, and maybe Adrian, you can help, we just send an email to the full commission to ask who could be there at 4:30, and then we need to figure out who actually gives the presentation. Which, I'm looking at you, Jessica, because if you could do it, I mean, you've been really instrumental in this process
Well,
too.
I don't know that I would say that, but.
And Leslie's not here, I mean, I think it
Yeah.
would make sense that our chair would
Right,
do it, but.
right. If Leslie can do it, that's
So
preferred.
is,
Hi, Bonnie.
Madam Chair, is that for next week? Is that next Tuesday?
The 24th, so 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, I won't be in town. I'll be in town next Tuesday, but not the 24th.
Okay. So we'll need to follow up on that over email? Okay. Somebody should be able to do it from the commission. I could do the 4:30, I can't do the 6. So there is a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to text Hillary that we finished it. There probably will be like confetti gifts or something. Okay. Let's see, Meridian Art Week debrief. It was really fun. Presenter, Maria.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think we had a really good turnout for Meridian Art Week. We had more programming this year. We added film showcase as well as a cultural performance. And we also had a more robust kickoff, I think, event on Tuesday. And so I think the biggest takeaways, and I'm going to read some of Bonnie's notes here that she had started. Due to some of the notes that we've been looking at, the Tuesday kickoff event, we had about maybe 15 people. We had anticipated a little bit more.
That's okay. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lynn Smith is here. Go ahead, Maria, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And I think in terms of the low turnout, we are thinking about, just a thought, it was just a thought of possibly moving for next year the Art Week maybe starting on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, right after Labor Day holiday. But again, that's just a note for now. There's no real, we haven't decided for or against that. But we did have people show up. There were some low attendance during the middle of the week, some of the programming during the middle of the week, and some thoughts that I know I personally had is maybe having commissioners maybe be a little bit more present next time at the events during the week, and also bringing our friends and really pushing the events through in our circles. It was really hard. I mean, it's during the middle of the week. It's right after work. So it was just really hard to get some people out there to begin with. But yeah, we're thinking about ideas to kind of make sure our turnout is pretty consistent throughout the week. And having people come back, throughout the week, same people who come into the kickoff meeting, going to the to other events throughout the week. And in terms of Saturday, it was a great turnout. I think Gretchen was there helping us out, and everybody was here. Everyone was here. I think we had 2 high school teams compete, three high school teams, and we had a lot of sign-ups for adult right on there, and I think same with the kids. But we only had 1 professional chalk artist for the event. And he was actually, he was also at the Artist Resources and Grants panel, and he came back, so that was really great. But yeah, it would be really nice to have more professional artists come in next time. I think they were actually looking in the social media and our Facebook page. There were a couple of professional artists that reached out to us about the signups, and we did get back to them in time, but they didn't quite pan out. So those were some of the things that we were thinking about. In terms of the free art events programming that we did for kids specifically, the spin art was a great kind of event that was put forward by Michelle. She kind of made that machinery for the spin art, and it was a great turnout for kids. It was really great fun. And same with the alcohol ink. We had a lot of kids and adults, like myself, who made my own alcohol ink t-shirt. And those were some of the great programs that we also had for the kiddos. Any other feedback from other commissioners over there?
I wrote down a few notes on Saturday while I was, this is specific to the chalk art, I think. One of the kids who came to participate in the chalk art also is in one of the school dance programs. And she said that they're always looking for more opportunities to perform. And I think it was great that we had a wonderful dance group perform. I think you guys performed for, was it a half hour or 45 minutes or was it?
Yeah, it was about 45, yeah.
So, I mean, maybe we could have more performances that day or throughout the week. I don't know how we would handle finding those groups or signing them up or whatever. We can discuss that for next year. But having more dance, and that's a great way to draw people in with the music, and there's activity happening, and it's just a lot of fun to watch anyway. And a couple folks, this is just a small detail, they brought their own chalk because they weren't sure whether on social media, like they had heard about the event through social media, but we didn't say specifically that we would be providing chalk. So that's something good to put in the, it's on the sign-up sheet on the second page, but if you just see it on social media, you wouldn't necessarily know. So something to make sure that we include information for next year. Lots of people signed up the day of. They had come to the market and didn't necessarily know about it and said, oh, let's do this. This looks like fun. So we had enough space, but maybe next year we could have more space for people who just want to come draw with chalk and don't necessarily want to be part of the competition. Just because it gets more people out and participating, and then there's more art on the sidewalk to see. Especially kids, kids just love that kind of stuff. And I think the theme this year, some folks got it, some didn't, especially younger kids maybe didn't quite know how to translate that theme into their art. So to think more strategically about a theme for next year and make it clear everywhere what the theme is. I think it was on the sign-up sheet, but it wasn't necessarily anywhere else. And so part of the scoring for the competition is adherence to the theme. So there was some great art that didn't necessarily contribute to any sort of discussion of the theme. So those are some thoughts specifically about the art. Also, I'm not sure what we do in terms of marketing, but my husband said he didn't see or hear anything anywhere about Art Week. And just the general, the radio stations or, whatever. So if you're already tuned in to the arts community in Meridian, you probably found out about it. But if you're just a regular person who would be interested in attending an Art Week event, but aren't necessarily specifically part of the art community, maybe that information was not as easy to come by. So thinking more about advertising for next year and how we want to try to reach out to folks who may not be part of that core community, but would be excited and interested to attend.
I agree. I think we needed to put a little bit more focus next year on advertising and really focusing. I think most of our efforts were social media this time. And our page, our Meridian Arts Commission page, I think one of the things that I was looking at was like, how can I increase the likes on this page so that more people are aware of the stuff that we're doing? Right now, we're at less than 700 likes. In comparison, Meridian Parks and Rec is around 3,000 likes. So if we can all.
That I would also just piggyback on what you were talking about with the Parks and Rec having their block party on the same day.
Yeah.
We didn't benefit from the city promoting this at all because they were promoting the block party.
Right.
As well
Which
as.
they've had for a while, yeah.
And so I would love to see that we don't have that. We already got bumped with concerts on Broadway by Parks, and I feel like we're just competing with Parks, and it seems totally ridiculous. So if they could plant, like, if we get them our dates, or somehow we should be able to coordinate better with Parks. And that might help with some of the marketing and
Yeah.
getting the word out if we have the city machine actually helping
Right.
to do more with, but not just our page, but the city of Meridian.
Right, yes.
Were there any other suggestions or feedback for next year?
Bonnie did add a really cool note about the plein air artists that came throughout the week. They were awesome. They were great. But she did have a note here, like, maybe we can consider having plein air competition next year. Because there had some great turnout, especially on Saturday. There was like a whole line of like plein air painters on Generations Plaza, which I think would be really cool to have people come and see how they work in real time. Have it be a competition.
Excellent.
We also plan on the events and outreach committee also are planning to have a closing kind of meeting so that we can gather these notes and and I can present those afterwards too, but we haven't had the time yet to gather.
So if we have any additional thoughts, then we can just email them to you and
Yes, absolutely.
file those.
Yep.
That'd be excellent. Thanks. Well, congratulations and kudos to everybody on the committee because it was a really terrific week and we continue to grow and expand it and it's becoming a signature event. So well done.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know I shared this with the Public Art Committee, and I'd been working with Hillary to share it with the commission as a whole, but maybe now's a good time to read the email that I
Oh,
got.
yeah, about Outdrop. Yes, please, go ahead.
So last year was my first year with Meridian Art Week and the Art Drop, and so I took some of my photographs and had them printed, and they're just 5x7s, put them in Ziploc bags, put them around downtown Meridian, and didn't think much of it. It was fun for me, and I didn't really see anything pop up on social media. And months went by, and out of the blue, I got an email from Susan, and she sent me a picture of one of the items that she'd found. And at first, I didn't even recognize it. I was like, "Where did she even get this?" Like, I was clueless, and then I realized where it came from because it had been 8 months. But she sent me an email with the picture that she had found, and she said, "Good morning. I'm so excited to be able to send this to you. I found your photograph around September, and this was last year. I had just left and ran from an abusive relationship. I lived here in Caldwell, but was in Nevada at the time when I left. Anyways, long story short, I spent the last X amount of time getting sober from alcohol, mending my broken self, life, and mental health. I am 8 months sober, lost 100 pounds, have 1 Spartan Race Sprint and 1 Spartan Race Beast in Montana, and have turned my life around. The day I found your photo, I was in the lowest state of mind. I was actually scaring myself. Thank you. I really cut ties at that time and was not in connection with any technology or a phone. It's a blur, really, but today I am so excited and happy to finally be able to write this email and tell you I found your photo, and I've carried it around with me through my journey this last 8 months. I looked at it every day and night. Now it's hanging on my wall in my bedroom. Thank you for putting a smile on my face every morning." And she had just gone to Jump Creek and had sent me pictures of her trip to that location. But I've been, I sent an email back to her thanking her for the information and for all that she's accomplished in that amount of time and the success that she's having. But it was really profound for me to have put something somewhere and just, it was kind of a fun little thing to do and not realizing quite what impacts might have come from that until this came.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear. We often find really fun things during art drop, but something that where somebody's life changes is great. It's really great.
It's very powerful. Well, we had one item left, the Meridian Symphony, and David has not made it yet. Should we table it? Okay, let's just table that for next month.
Sounds good.
Emily, yeah, okay. And that was it in terms of action items. I did notice we don't have the financials on the agenda, which I didn't think about earlier, is that because of the transition, usually we approve the monthly financial statements. Do we do 2 next month then? I didn't
That
think about
sounds
it.
great. That's good. That's a good plan.
Okay, so we can follow up to make sure that we get that next month.
Okay.
And our next meeting is on October 10th, so you'll get an email to make sure we can verify we have quorum for that meeting. And with no further business before us, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 4:38 PM.
Nice job, Adrian.
Good? Thanks. Thank you, Adrian.
Sorry,
Thank you, Bonnie.
Call me.
it was a terrible wreck on
Have a good week, everybody.
Victory and Meridian with a child in one
Oh,
of those
no.
electric cart things,
Oh, no.
Scooter?
scooter. And there was just cars
doors would be
smashed. It was horrible. It was not, the traffic was
Bye-bye birdie.
right at the rush hour start of the rush.
Oh,
It was
no.
horrible.
Was there, did it look like if things were okay?
Pardon me?
Did it look like things were okay?
No.
No. Not okay. Message Jeff.
By the way,
Is that what you're doing?
can't help it.
The police know everywhere.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, it's nothing drastic, it's just, like, a little punctuation here and there.
Big rats, I mean, lots of cars.
There was a child just the other day, or the week.
And if you have questions, feel free to
Something like that.
contact me and talk through. This one, I don't know, so
then there was another one who was.
Maybe it wasn't her. Could have been a personal. Nice email. Very, it's really cool. Yes, excellent.
You have to leave super, super early.
I think it's absolutely.
Yeah, I know, yes, it's true, right. So you're a new commissioner? You're taking, yeah, she had to move out of town.
Yes, whoever it was.
Yeah, she, what she used to say. So you,